speaker, Professor Maria Graca Carvalho, who is a senior advisor in the European Commission. She was a member of European Parliament, member of Industry, Research and Energy Committee, member of Budgets Committee, Special Committee on the Policy Challenges and Budgetary Resources for Sustainable European Union after 2013, and member of ACP European Union Joint Parliamentary Assembly. She was elected co-president of the Economic Development, Finance and Trade Committee of ACP European Union Joint Parliamentary Assembly. She was principal advisor in the area of science, higher education, innovation, research policy, energy, environment and sustainable development in Bureau of European Policy Advisors in the time when climate energy strategy of 2008 was devised, which I think is very important to say. She is a full professor at the Mechanical Engineering Department of Instituto Superior Tecnico since 1992. She obtained her PhD at Imperial College in London. She has participated and coordinated in a large number of international R&D projects. She has over 500 publications in scientific journals, books, and international conference proceedings to her credit. Her main research field is energy, environment, sustainable development. She was the Minister of Science and Higher Education of the 15 and 16 government of Portugal, a Director General of Greece's office, and Deputy President of the Portuguese Association of Engineers. She is a Fellow of World Academy of Arts and Science, who is the partner of SDEWES. She is a member of 22 national and international scientific associations and Fellow of American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics and of American Association for the Advancement of Science. But I would like to also add some little personal touch to it. I had a luck to work with Professora Carvalho between 1994 and 2002 here in Instituto Superior Tecnico. And for me, it was a very interesting experience. I'm quite an autistic type of engineer. If you give me equations, I can calculate everything. I like numbers. And then I got a woman as a boss, and I didn't understand a word what she wanted from me. So when we had meetings, well, I was thinking whole nights what she actually wanted from me. And then after a few days, okay, I said this might be this, and I came back with new models, new data, new graphs, and she liked it. So we actually developed a very successful cooperation as a boss and a student, in which I was actually given an opportunity to enter new fields, build new ideas, thanks to this difference. And from then on, I think that the difference, although we might not understand each other in the beginning, is hugely important, because scientists should actually open new areas. They should go into unknown, not just keep quiet in their known areas. We should open new areas of research. So I'm extremely thankful to Graca, because I think thanks to her, I have built what I think quite a successful career due to this opening of horizons. The floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Neven, for very kind words. And I'm very proud to be here, to have been invited. And special to this conference that I'm very attached, because I've been attending several editions from the beginning, and because it's chaired by Neven. That is one of my most successful students. He was a brilliant student and very hardworking, very clever. And I think that which read a long list of things that I have done, but I think that the most successful achievement in my career has been the people that I have worked with, to see them quite successful, The other case is Professor Mario Costa, that was not my student, but he came just after the PhD to work with me, and to see many around the world, from Hawaii to Japan to China, and to see that they are all or professors or directors of big companies and big research departments in companies, in Belgium, in Germany, everywhere. So the amount of, and I always like to work with the young people and to let them develop their own ideas. I'm not very prescriptive, and to take out of them the best that they could give. And I fully agree that diversity is very, very important. We always had a very diverse geographical and from different disciplines and gender and diversity in all sense, and that was very, very important for the development of our research group. And I think that the people that were working here, they also not only learn about the subject, but also to do research about the world, and that is very, very important. And I think that is also part why they are prepared to go on and to make a career somewhere else and to be successful. So because of that, I'm also very, very much pleased to be here in this conference. I thank very much all the organizers for having thought about my name to give you to be in the plenary, in the opening ceremony, but also to give you this invited lecture. For this lecture, I have chosen a subject that is in certain way what is the novelty from the Brussels policy. We have very recently issued a package on circular economy, and this has influence in all the areas relate to water, environment, energy, and sustainability, but also has an impact on the research funding. So we have adapted our program Horizon 2020 through the flexibility that we have in the biannual work program. So the work program for 2016 and 2017, we have adapted in order to fulfill this priority. That is a priority for this commissioner, President Juncker commissioner, that is the water, the energy, environment, but in the scope of a circular economy. So in this presentation, I will talk you very briefly, because most of you are familiar with the concept, what is inside the package of the European package on circular economy, a very short description of Horizon. I realize that some of the attendees of this conference that come from outside Europe are still not very familiar, so just a very quick guideline, some quick words about Horizon. And I will concentrate on the part of Horizon in the work program of 2016 and 17. That is now the calls that we have in the area of the circular economy, both in terms of energy and in terms of water. I will finalize talking to you about innovation deals. I already mentioned that in the opening. That is how we are removing barriers in terms of legislation or perception of legislation to allow innovative projects to develop in a faster way, in an easier way, in the area of circular economy. And that we have called these actions innovation deals. So, we have in the recent years, we have worked mainly with the concept of linear economy. It was not always like that, and for the ones that are old enough to remember, some years ago, 20, 30 years ago, the economy was, at least in Portugal, it was like this. We had in certain way the concepts of circular economy in our village, in our rural communities. But at that time was because we didn't have access to a lot of products, and this was a kind of circular economy, but a circular economy without new technologies, without optimization, but we usually used everything, and there was very, very little waste in our day-to-day life. So this concept of circular economy is not new for us, but now is going to be applied in a much different way, using all the concepts of the new all the new technology and all the new advancements, for example, of ICT, because in the linear economy that we lose the value of materials and products, and due to the scarcity of resources, we waste much more material, and we have, as consequence, environmental degradation and negative consequence to climate change. Because of that, we are going back to the circular economy, where the value of the products and of the materials and the resources are maintained in the economy for as much as possible, as long as possible. And we try to minimize the waste generation. This is very important for growth and jobs. It creates much more jobs because, for example, in the construction area, the fact that you need to reutilize some of the materials, there is a lot of manpower involved in the circular economy. So one of the principles behind the circular economy, instead, for example, for the construction sector, instead of importing in some countries that need to import, like the case of Portugal, a lot of materials, instead of that, you try to reutilize from existing buildings that are old. You try to use as much as possible these materials to build the new buildings. So you are replacing the importing materials and the use of new materials by manpower for jobs. And this is good. It's good that you decrease the need to import, and you increase the employment of the region. So we hope that this is a boosting in the economy, and also the security of supply in terms of energy and in terms of certain materials that are scarce, and that we will lead to more jobs than in the present moment. Also, we hope that innovation will play a very important role, because we want to do a circular economy, not like it was in the past, but based on new technologies, based on new business models, based on new clever ways, imaginative ways to reuse the materials that are already in the economy and in the society. So this will have impact in the production, in the consumption, in the waste material, and in the secondary raw materials market. And central to all this, we will have the innovation, investment, monitoring, and research that is behind all of this process. So in the production, the objective is to provide incentives to boost circular product design and innovative and efficient production processes. So this will have an impact in the way industry is organized and the production system is organized inside the industry. So we are planning some key actions coordinated by the European Commission, like the Eco-Design Directive, where we are targeting the recyclability and durability of products, the best practice for waste management and resource efficient in the industrial sectors. So this, for example, the BREFs already exist, this legislation, but we need to revise in keeping in mind these new principles of the circular economy. So the remanufacturing, it will be a very important concept, and the development of more coherent tools for SMEs. The SMEs will have a very important role in this circular economy. On the consumption, so there will be a new philosophy that until now, and it happens, I believe, to most of you, that one small equipment at your house doesn't work anymore, and we just throw it away. There is no people to repair. There is no market of repairing these small equipment that we have at home, and we are trying to revise this concept and to make a culture and a market that this equipment can be repaired and can have a life that is much longer than now, in order to save the environment, to solve the problems of the scarcity of the materials, and, as I told, also to improve the creation of jobs. So the key actions, we are planning to have eco-labeling, a better labeling, also adapt to the circular economy, to promote new forms of consumption. For example, the collaborative economy. This is already happening. The Commission doesn't need to have an impact on that, because it's always happening. The car sharing, there is a lot of other ways and forms that are happening bottom up, where the citizens are organized themselves to have a shared economy. Instead of owning your own car, you just use a car that is available, and you pay a certain fee. And what is this example for the cars, it can be used for other areas. Independent testing to access obsolescence, and circular economy criteria to introduce the circular economy criteria in the public procurement. In the waste management, so we want to improve waste management in line with the EU waste hierarchy, to address existing implementation gaps, and to provide a long-term vision and targets to guide investments. So there will be a revision of the EU targets for recycling, 65% of municipal wastes, and 75% for packing of wastes by 2030. And the market for secondary raw materials, to increase the use of secondary raw materials, and to increase the use of recycled, for example, recycled water. All this that needs to be accompanied by a safely management of chemicals, and to improve the knowledge of the material flows. So the priority sectors that we are targeting is the construction and demolition sector, critical raw materials, food waste is an important sector, the plastics, and the biomass and bio-based products. The circular economy is about change, but it's about innovation. So the difference between now and the past, as I told, that we want to do all this now with a lot of innovation. Innovation, technological innovation, but also social innovation, new business models, new way to organize the society, the production, to organize the industry. So we need to invest more in research and development in this area. We need multi-stakeholders involvement and the enabling framework in order to promote these concepts of circular innovation. So we also need a more systemic approach from incremental innovations and single industry and silos mentality that we have now and linear models. We need to have multi-stakeholders, cross-sectors, innovation, disruptive innovation and new market creating innovation, new business models, and new design strategies. So these are the main concepts that we want in certain way that is including in the new project of Horizon 2020. So we have adapted our research and innovation strategy in this area to this new package of circular economy, and our objective is to create the right environment for innovation and investment, and we have introduced in the work program of 16-17 a big action called Industry 2020 in the circular economy, that are now breakdown in different calls, as I will explain to you. And we are also, not only Horizon 2020 has adapted to this, but also the financing of the European Investment Bank and the regional funds. The cohesion policy funds has also been the priorities adapted to finance also, or co-finance also big demonstrations and new business models in the area of circular economy. So in Horizon 2020, that I will show a little bit the general guidelines, and after I will show you where is the circular economy and what are the next calls for the circular economy. So, as I told in my first introductory speech, is the Program of Research and Innovation, the European program, from 2014 to 2020, has a budget of around 77 billion, and is research, but also innovation, is not only research. As divided in three areas: excellent science, industrial leadership, and societal challenge. In the excellence in science, we have bottom-up, we don't define priorities, and we have the European Research Council for individual grants, future and emerging technologies that are not defining the areas, but in consortium, novel ideas, but projects in consortiums, the Marie Curie fellowships, individual fellowships, and the research infrastructures. On the industrial leadership, we have the leadership in enabling and industrial technologies that is divided in ICT, nanotechnologies, materials, biotechnology, manufacturing, and space. And we have two financial mechanisms, that is the access to risk finance and a scheme to support innovation in the individual SMEs. In the third pillar is where we have the societal challenge, and as I told you also in the first day, this conference addresses mainly the third and the fifth societal challenge, because the first is health, the second is about food and bioeconomy, and the third is clean energy. Fourth is transports. This conference also touched transports. And the fifth is climate action, environment, resource efficiency, and raw materials. So the green economy is mainly in the circular economy is mainly in the energy societal challenge and most of it is in the climate action, environment, and resource efficient and raw materials. Skip this. So in the content of the work program 16-17, we have, as I told you, adapt to the new, we continue with the program that was defined in 2013, but we adapt to the new priorities. And as I told you also in the first day, the new priorities were the Internet of Things, the smart and sustainable cities, and the subject that we are dealing today here, that is the Industry 2020 in the scope of the circular economy. As I also already mentioned to you in the first day, we are looking for synergies between Horizon 2020 and other programs, namely the regional fund that is called the SIF, because we want to finance big demonstration projects, and these demonstration projects usually cannot be financed only from one source. So how do we see this? We see that the regional funds can act before and after the Horizon 2020, before as capacity building, financing the infrastructures, financing training, financing scholarships. After, it can co-finance the big demonstration projects and to finance the commercialization, the development of the knowledge that is produced under Horizon 2020 or previous FP7 projects. So, how is going to be the cause of circular economy inside Horizon 2020? We are going to have mainly we will have two main calls, one on large-scale demonstration projects, is called Systemic Eco-Innovative Approach for the Circular Economy, and the second one that is Water in the Context of Circular Economy. These calls will be in 2017. I will show the deadlines. So in the first one, on the large-scale demonstration projects, the main objective of these projects is to increase resources. So the challenge that we have is to face the increase of resources constraint. We want to replace the current linear model by a circular model, both in production and consumption and resource efficiency, and adopting a systemic approach to eco-innovation, where we consider the whole value and supply chain, and we engage multi-stakeholders. So, we want to demonstrate the feasibility of circular economy, and all the forms of innovation should be addressed. This means that you cannot concentrate only on research and technological innovation. You have also to deal with to business innovation, to social innovation in your project, and the fact that you need to think about new business models and the involvement of end users is crucial. As you all already know, the part of the impact and the expected impact is very important in the Horizon 2020. Is one of the difference with FP7, where the impact was not so important as it is now in Horizon 2020. You need to specify the impact of your project, what is the expect, and quantify the impact of the project. So if your project is expect to create new markets for new products or new services, if it's going to reduce the supply chain length, if it's going to facilitate the inclusion of resources or materials, and if it's going to create new business opportunities, or if eco-innovative solutions will come out, and what is the impact in terms of economic, social, and environmental sustainability. So it is a two-stage proposal, and the first deadline for the simpler proposal is on the 7th of March, and the second stage is in the beginning of September 2017. They are demonstrations, so it's an innovation action. It means that it's financed 70%. If it's a research, it's financed at 100%. If it's a large demonstration or a more closer to the market research, is financed at 70%, and is this the case? The second call is water in the context of circular economy, and the main motivation is because the scarcity of water, and we need to improve the water system by considering the whole water use production chain, and enhance economic as well environmental performance of the whole system. There is still a lot of leakage and problems in the water system, and there is a need. It's already happening in some regions, but we need to increase, for example, the introduction of new technologies like ICT to the whole water management and the water system. So the scope of this call is to demonstrate innovative solutions of large-scale water systems, develop new concepts of the water services of the future, and integration of various aspects of the water management should be taken into consideration. So usually it's projects that do not look only to one sector, but look to the sectors that are around the main sector that you are dealing with. So we should have all the stakeholders involved, and this is also a very important difference from the FP7. So the social economic issue should be taken into consideration, and very important, this is also common to almost all areas of Horizon 2020, the introduction of digital technologies and ICT tools should be considered. We are facing a big revolution on introduction of digitalization in most sectors, so the research and innovation should help this to happen. So we are very much promoting the digitalization, especially on these sectors: water, energy, food, transports, and health. The expected impact is a reduction of current water and energy consumption, interconnectivity between the water system and other sectors, for example, energy or different sectors, increased public involvement in the water management to involve the end user, the public in general, and creation of new markets and new business opportunities. So the deadlines, I think they are the same, 7th of March, and the second stage, 5th of September. Is also innovation actions. These big demonstration projects will be accompanied by what we call the innovation deals. So we expect completely new concepts, new business, new ways to organize these systems on the production or in the water management. And we will have like a task force that will accompany these projects in order to analyze the administrative barriers that can be legislation, perception of legislation, or application of legislation, European level, national or regional. And this will try to analyze what are the barriers, or the barriers can be even lack of legislation. That most cases for this new technology, there is no legislation, it's an empty space, and there is no framework where the project can be developed. So, and in the end, this task force will propose to the authorities, European, national or regional, what is required to do to make this kind of projects easier to implement. So it's a very pragmatic, flexible, and transparent approach. There is no, the objective is not to lower the standards, because there were some criticisms to these innovation deals, some worries that this could be a way to lower the standards in terms of safety and environment. It's not the case. It's just to help to use the existing legislation or to remove some legislation that is completely inadequate, but not because of environment standards. It's because it was done when the technology development was completely different, this legislation, and it doesn't adapt to the new to the new technologies, need to be changed, or even to propose that new legislation is needed because there is not appropriate legislation for these new business models or these new technologies. This was inspired by the Green Deals that already exist, very successful in the Netherlands. So they are already doing this. So it's not a novelty invented by the Commission. It's adapted from the Green Deals in Netherlands. So why we did that was the fact that we have a number of demonstration projects that had a lot of problems to be implemented due to these problems. For example, in the case of CCS, the carbon capture and storage, that at one stage, when was the economic development package after the energy and climate package, the Commission financed 7 big demonstration projects, and only, I think, 2 were able to get implemented because the other 5 had big problems of implementation, because the legislation was not adequate or there was not enough legislation. So we have evidence that this is a real problem for the new technologies. So the concrete outcomes is inconsistent in legislation, so recommendations to solve these problems. For example, if there is conflicting standards, norms, and guidelines, if the legislation is not fitted for purpose, improve the communication channels, improve the awareness, for example, of the regional authorities and the national authorities for that technology, for that kind of system. So we hope in a very pragmatic way to make life easy for the developers of these new concepts and these new technologies. So this is the package that we are putting together, both in terms of concept legislation, investment in research and innovation, and also helping to create a regulatory environment that makes easy to implement the new concepts and the new technologies. And I hope that now is up to the researchers and to the business to take up these ideas and develop new concepts, new technology, and new ways to deal with energy and water in this new fashion, taking in consideration the circular economy concept. Thank you very much.
I open the floor now for questions. Shir, please. Use the mic.
Thank you, Professor Carvalho, for all of this dedication and presentation of this keynote lecture. I would like to ask, we're considering the circular economy as a new concept for the entire society, to recycle the waste and minimize the waste. But at the same time, we're trying to promote a linear model for R&D and innovation, starting with the research, the capacity building, the demonstration sites, and then the pilot upscaling in the industry. But at the same time, we're trying to change this. When we're trying to push for the circular model for the society, what can research and innovation policy do to also change the linear model of innovation?
Very good, very clever. Thank you very much. It's true, for example, Horizon 2020 was developed keeping in mind the linear model. We started developing Horizon 2020 in 2010. It took 3 years and a half to develop Horizon 2020. And one of the first principles was to consider all the chain from fundamental research, technology, applied research, technology development, pilot phase, demonstration, and application to the market. So it was very linear from the beginning. And we have changed this concept. We are applying now a circular concept to research. Of course, the Horizon has some flexibility in belt that we can use and we are using, and because of that is that our commissioner has announced the European Innovation Council that is completely a circular way to think about research and innovation. So is from the beginning fundamental and innovation and disruptive ideas embedded together to generate new concepts, new business. So it's the European Research Council, but with the circular concept embedded. You don't distinguish between the research and innovation altogether. You create new ideas and new concepts. So I suppose that that is going to be the fundament, and that we are going to introduce already in a pilot phase in the work program 2018, 2019, and 2020, inside Horizon 2020, because we have this flexibility in the work program to slightly change, so we can introduce these new concepts in 2018. But we cannot radically transform Horizon 2020, and we don't need to radically transform because there are very good things in the Horizon 2020. But in certain way, we'll adapt all this structure to a circular concept for the next framework program. That is going to be the main difference, is that we do not have anymore the linear. We have much more a circular concept, and fundamental research is embedding in the innovation, and that is the way to work now, and with keeping this in mind, that we'll adapt the good things of Horizon 2020 to develop FP9. We'll keep the good things, but we will embed this new bottom-up, disruptive, decentralized, and circular concept. We adapt that to Horizon 2020 to develop FP9.
More questions? I wonder how many people are aware that Horizon 2020 is actually open for participation of maybe 170
every
countries? No, well, every country, but it's also funding.
Yeah, I will explain that.
Okay.
So, every country can participate in Horizon 2020. The funding is like this. Industrialized countries, so rich countries, and also now countries with economy in transition, the so-called BRICS, will not receive the funding from the EU, but the EU has done an agreement with the governments of these countries where they developed a fund where the partners that got the proposal will get the money. So if in a project, if you have a partner, the Europeans, if you have a partner from a country in Africa, they will receive the fund exactly like a European or South America. But if it's US or China, they can participate, be treating as a partner, but when is the budget to receive the money, they have to inform, and I think they have informed from the beginning, the relevant authorities in their country, and the budget will come from their, from the US or from China. But all the others, all the developing countries receive directly from Brussels like European countries. And we want to increase the participation of third countries. We have, compared with FP7, FP7 was more restricted to the participation of third countries. So we did a big change saying that Horizon 2020 is open to everyone, and we want a lot of participation. But because we have changed, in FP7, everyone received from European budget, US, China, and we have changed this from FP7 to Horizon 2020. So there was a decrease, a slight decrease, because in the beginning people didn't know how this would work. And we had in the past a big participation, for example, from China, from Brazil, from US. And these are the countries that now need to receive from their own authorities the funding. So in the first years we have a slightly decrease compared with FP7. And we want, of the third countries' participation, and we want to correct that, and we want to have more and more participation of third countries in Horizon 2020. Of course, it has to make sense, no? But in all the areas of this conference, the problems are global, and it makes all the sense to have participation of third countries. I'm not talking about associated members. Associated members are like European countries. So like all the countries that are in the process to enter negotiating the participation in the European Union, they are treated as for Horizon 2020 as Europeans. And now, not only these countries, but we have association contracts negotiated with several countries like Israel, Tunisia, Ukraine. So these are full partners in Horizon 2020. Switzerland was until very recently. Now has been under negotiations, because one of the conditions, when I say that it's open to all countries, is that one of the conditions they have to respect the European values, and one of that is the mobility. And the fact that we had restrictions in the mobility to Europeans in Switzerland created problems in the participation.
But for associated countries, not for third countries.
Yes,
third countries don't have
no. This is
no
for
condition.
the full association.
Yes. No. Please, Michael.
Okay, this is a very interesting opportunity. What buy-in has the corporate world, sort of the large multinational companies that sort of transcend national boundaries, have their money stacked away in little places that we don't know where they are, and what's their view of the whole concept of the circular economy? Are we getting buy-in from Google, from Bosch, from some of these large multinationals?
Yes.
Do they see that this is a good direction,
Yes.
that there's a profit motive there, and that they can buy into?
I would say that there are even drivers on these concepts like Google and all the share economy, all these new concepts, because these concepts use a lot of platforms, or they hope that this will use a lot of platforms and technologies that they are developed. So it's very much pushed by the big companies that are very advanced in technology, because it's a good opportunity for them.
I mean, is there going to be a way to share the benefits? So I know Google wants everything to, you know, they've sort of got their hands in so many pies, and they want everything to be free for the parts that they can make free and no one else can earn from it, and yet at the same time, the part which they have the monopoly on, that's where they're making their money. So how do we sort of keep some of those large companies that sort of are spreading their tentacles everywhere, how do we enable them not to just form monopoly situations and prevent innovation because there isn't a profit opportunity for others?
Yes. Yeah, you know that one of our main, we're talking about values, and the European values is to keep the competition completely open, and that is something that we are always very, very attentive, and we act when it's not, there is some action that goes against the open competition. But apart from that, our policy is also very open to the participation of all the actors, and the actors that need to contribute, but they have to fulfill the rules of open competition and fairness and all the values that the European Union defends.
Thank you.
More questions? There are fears that such a big change in European policy, which is accompanied by really excellent new technologies being developed and brought to the markets, will actually help other countries even more, because Europe is not really a production giant. It's more a consumption side. So how do you think this will in the end work for Europe in the long term?
It's because of that we are putting as a first priority the regulatory environment. We think that one of the reasons for that to happen with circular economy or without circular economy, because it's happening in some sectors, you develop the concepts and the knowledge, and this commercialized, and the production is done somewhere else in the world. So we think that the first factor for that is a complex regulatory environment and the fragmentation of the internal market. So this is our first objective in all the areas, is to strengthen the internal market and to create a friendly environment for things to happen. This is easy to say, it's not easy to do. But all these that we are doing on the regulation, the innovation deals, is exactly trying to identify what are the problems and why is the reality like that. It's fragmentation, a lot of regulation that is not adapted to the technologies probably, and lack of investment in the certain stage of the development, the venture capital. And so we are trying to address all these questions in order to try to prevent that this will continue to happen at the rate that is happening until now.
More questions? No questions about future funding? You're not interested? Well, you mentioned that 4 years before 2013, you started to develop Horizon 2020. So now it's 2016, and I think that the preparations for FP9 have started.
Yes.
Do you have any information that can be made public about it?
No, the only thing is that we, as I told also in the opening, we are starting with the foresight study to identify scenarios for the future, and after that we will have a very extensive public consultation. I draw your attention for you to contribute, and with that, plus the evaluation of FP7 that was completed some months ago, and the evaluation that we are doing, the midterm of Horizon 2020 that is happening now, with all these elements, we start preparing the DGRTD in cooperation with the other DGs that are in the research family. We'll prepare a proposal that will be approved by the College of Commissioners and will be submitted to the Parliament and to the Council to be negotiated in co-decision with the Council and the Parliament. So the proposal should be ready end of 2017, beginning of 2018, to start all the preparation in Parliament and the Council in order to be ready in 2020 to start 2021.
Some of the, you could say, societal changes were really pushed by framework programs like in energy, climate change, circular economy. But I think some were completely omitted or just slightly touched, like artificial intelligence, drones, three-dimensional transport, and all these things that big data, all these things that it seems are changing the world significantly on the other side. Horizon was always very much concentrated on societal changes that politicians wanted to achieve.
No, it's like this. It's a different concept. What was defined is the challenge of the society, and the drone is not a challenge of the society. Can help or not help to solve a problem of the society, but it's not a challenge. The challenge of the society is to solve the climate change, is to solve the security of supply, is to provide better health. And after we define the problems of the society and what we think that will be important to give solutions to that problem. And after the researchers and the entrepreneurs need to use all that you have mentioned, the big data. We hope that they are using big data in health, in energy, and to tackle climate change. They need to use big data. But that are tools and technologies and that they need to use to address societal challenge. And this was a big change also of Horizon compared with the previous ones. The previous framework programs were very much discipline. And we abandoned the area of discipline to have two pillars that we didn't define. It's bottom-up, the first and the second. The first defined by the researchers, the second more by the entrepreneurs, the industrial leadership. And the third were defined by the policymakers, proposal of the Commission, but approved and amended by the Parliament and the Council, when the problems of the society were defined. Health, energy, clean transports, security is one of the societal challenges that was introduced by the Parliament. And there is no indication of technologies. And the researchers should use all the best, more adequate technologies and process and ideas to address these questions.
One last question, if I may, but one societal challenge that I see going around in social networks very much is the fear of losing of jobs. According to some studies, we are going to lose probably 50% of jobs as we know it. We will probably create more new jobs. But according to one paper, the societal upheaval, thanks to artificial intelligence, will be 700 times bigger than the one created by steam machine. So it sounds like a huge societal challenge to me.
Yeah, it is. And there is a lot of ideas going around. They call it most of the times future of work, because the way that we perceive work will change. And I suppose all this will lead to a change in society. You destroy jobs in one area, but you will create in another. But all this needs to be think about and model and developed concepts. Redistribution of wealth needs to be addressed. So I suppose this will come out in most of these foresight studies as one of the top. I'm almost sure they have not present the results, but I suppose because of what is going on in social media, that the future of work and all this change in the society, consequence of the digitalization, the new technologies will be very important in the future.
Thank you. So, lunch now, and don't forget about the social program this afternoon also. No, it's 3 p.m. 3 p.m. meeting point in front of the main building? Okay.